Hey, welcome. This is the 6th part in a series I'm doing where I build a city called Westdale. This episode is going to be primarily focused on controlling our traffic. Now, the way I plan on doing that is by buying the next tile, in hopes that there is enough room to build another interchange. But for sure, I will be building a warehouse complex. And what this will do, it'll give all of our industry a place to export their goods to, and then from there it can be exported where it needs to go, whether that's outside the city or whether that is sending crops to the zoned agriculture or lumber to the zoned forestry, or even just general goods to our commercial. If you look at the freeways, we have two outside connections on the left and only one on the right. Currently, 100% of all of our traffic is using that one interchange. So if we come off to the left side here and build a second interchange off of this freeway, as long as we place our warehousing area close to that, but not too close, then all of our industry will use our road infrastructure within the city to get to the warehousing, and then our warehousing will then be split between the two interchanges, where 2/3 of it will go off to the left side, and 1/3 will go up to use this top interchange. And that's something I think is going to help both of these interchanges last quite a lot longer until we eventually get other modes of exporting our goods, such as cargo trains, cargo harbor, even cargo planes. But we need to hold ourselves off until then, and I think this is a great way to do it. Unfortunately, we're not going to have the population to man that, so I will need to finish zoning in the low-income or affordable housing area. I also don't think we're producing enough of certain goods to have warehouses for them, so we're also going to be expanding our industry just a little bit in order to maximize our warehouse usage. So to start, I actually have a few small things I'd like to change, one of which is going to be this road right here in front. Oh, an error occurred. Oh my goodness. Everything looks like it's doing just fine. So yeah, I wanted to upgrade this road here to one without sidewalks, which I already did. Just that way we don't see any more parking on this road, because we have these parking stalls across the street and even in front of the medical clinic itself. Even our pediatrics has parking in front. The next thing I want to upgrade or change, since we're already here, is actually this highway. So we have been given a two-way highway, and I want to upgrade the roads on this whole interchange to that, because as you can see, these vehicles are moving fairly slowly, and that's because the person who created the map used the default 2-lane roads. And on this roundabout, I want to use the regular 2-lane highway. I'm using the 2-lane highway on the roundabout just that way it goes a little bit faster. Of course, it's a bit unrealistic if you ask me, because when you look at the 2-lane highway, it has a speed of 100. And I doubt any roundabout you'll see in real life, people would be okay with having a 100-mile-per-hour speed limit on it. So it's very silly, but I just want to help it along by processing a little bit more traffic just a little bit more quickly. So as you can see, people are already starting to zoom a lot faster along here than they were before, which is great. That's exactly what we want to see. We want to help the capacity of this as much as we can. Another thing I'd like to upgrade and change is the roads around geriatrics. I'd like to extend it to match the block size of the educational area, but I don't want the connection through on this side. And the reason why I don't want the connection here is because there's already going to be a lot of people trying to get to this area. We have the elementary school, we have the high school, we have the public library, we have basketball court, we're eventually going to have a gymnasium. So I just wanted to move the traffic that this will generate off to this road over here. So I believe, oh no, there's one last thing. And the last thing is the bus route. So if we look at this, I forgot to finish this. And there's a couple ways I forgot to finish it. If we look at this first route here, we can see that there's hardly anybody waiting at any stops. The buses have almost no capacity. The closest is this one, which is almost halfway, but it's not even close. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to lower it to the lowest capacity bus, which is this mini bus here, which I believe has a capacity of 20. And on top of that, we're going to lower it from 5 buses to 4. Because not a whole lot of people are using this, and the buses aren't even getting close to being full, so we're way over on both of these lines here. And there's actually a couple stops I want to move around as well. So if we come over here, say to this one, the blue line, as soon as it turns in, it immediately pulls to the right to pick people up. That could cause problems if other people following behind it try to get past it, and it doesn't quite pull into the bus lane all the way, then they're stuck there. So if we move it up here, now there's some queuing space, that way they aren't queuing in the intersection back here. And that is the same thing for over here, right? Just drag the stop just down the block, and that's doing great. As far as these bus stops over here, I'm not going to move them. If we look at the road, it's a 4-lane road. So I mean, theoretically in real life, people would just go around. But I know in this game, the cars will literally just sit behind it until it moves again, even though the other lane's clear. We're just going to leave these here because it kind of makes sense. And it's right next to the tram stop over here, while providing even more transit opportunities for the low income and affordable housing. But everything else is doing great. As far as the bus line, that's all we had to change. So yeah, I think I'm going to get into the purpose of this episode. And to start, we're going to buy the next tile. I think that is actually plenty of room to build an interchange here. I think that's actually more than enough room. So we're going to go ahead and build it here. I'm going to put a roundabout at the end, just like our other interchange. I'm going to actually bring our first road down this side along this way and connect into another roundabout here like I talked about in a previous episode. Upgrade the roads, that way it'll encourage our traffic to go that way. And then I'm actually also going to build a toll road here. And I'm going to build the toll road from this commercial, follow along the railroad, and then stop where I would like my warehousing, and then give warehousing a direct access to that toll road. The reason why I want to put a toll on it is because I don't want all of our industry using that road. I want to split our industry up between the toll road and this collector or arterial, whatever you want to call it. And I think the split will just help traffic smooth out just a little bit more. One of the unfortunate side effects is we're going to have to think about these trees here. This one on the right that I'm highlighting, I will not be able to just turn around to put on a road, so we're going to have to move it somewhere else. But what we can do is place a road behind these and just simply turn these other two around. Let's get into this time lapse here. Alright, now that that mega time lapse is out of the way, I actually wanted to make a comment about that. That was something I wanted to try where I knew it was going to take a long time to build a lot of the infrastructure, so I wanted to build it all at once and then just time lapse it, but I found it was going to be like a ridiculous length of time lapse. It was going to be like 10 minutes, so I had to make all these cuts in it to shrink it down as much as I could. I'm not happy with the final product, so I think going forward I'm only going to be talking about a little bit at once, like say for instance talking about the toll road and then immediately doing the time lapse for it. That's just something I wanted to comment about the series going forward. I'm sorry about the time lapse, I didn't like it, so I'm not going to do that going forward. But I think our next thing to focus on is actually this little area right here. You can kind of see I put a little bit of dirt roads around it, or poking into it, and this is where I want to add the warehousing area. So I'm going to go ahead and get into building this and placing down a few of the warehouses, and then once I'm done I'll explain what I did, and yeah, see you on the other side. Alright, so I've begun to lay out some of these warehouses over here, and the first one I placed down was the commercial zone good ones, and I set it to fill, which means that, as you can see, it's heavily importing everything. And I am actually okay with that because we don't have any industry that is producing commercial zone goods. So once it reaches full, all these trucks will leave, and then the only trucks that ever get into use will be the ones that are sending it to our own commercial zones. The next one I placed down is this small grain silo. It's currently being held up by all the traffic the commercial zone has brought in. Actually, to alleviate that, I think I'm going to upgrade this road here to a 4-lane industrial. Actually, why not just upgrade all these roads here? And so the way I did this with this one to prevent it from creating that much traffic as well is I had paused the game and then set it to empty. And if you look at our routes, I believe the only ones coming from out of town will be our own trucks returning to facilities. So let's go ahead and click on this one right here. Yep, owner, small grain silo, returning to facility. And that is the small grain silo we are thinking of. For this one, I set it to the zoned industry farming products. And I set it to empty so it didn't import anything, because as you can see, it says it can be imported. So we have to be very careful with that. But luckily with these regular warehouses, if you set it to empty before you selected stored resource, you don't have to worry about pausing the game. It's only for the industry DLC specific ones like the small grain silo and the log yard. The last one I placed is the next one I placed is the zoned industry forestry products. Same thing as the zoned industry farming, it's just different ones. And the last one I placed is the small log yard. I think for now, these industry buildings will be importing until we catch up with the number of tree plantations over here. So I think I want to let this warehousing just run in the background a little bit, not by too much. The next thing I want to do while it runs, until the next time I want to check up on it, is actually expanding upon both our farm industry and our forestry industry by adding a few more tree plantations and even just adding a few more jobs into the farming area to level it up. And I'm thinking in order to add more jobs, I'm going to create a new area right around here, around the windmills, where I could start to place and add locations for processing buildings that will process the crops into flour and animal products. So I think that's what I'll do next, and I will go ahead and see you on the other side. Alright, so what I did was I first expanded our tree plantations in order to increase our raw lumber production, which will inevitably help out with our zoned forestry and not having them have to import, because when they import, it will be using this interchange here. So as long as we're producing enough over here, they're going to be fine, because our warehouse will get to the point where, oh wow, it actually already looks like it's ready to go, but we will check up on them once we're finished with the recap. The next thing I did was add this area over here. Now I didn't add any connection into the neighborhood because I didn't want any industry to drive through the neighborhood, and since we don't have a heavy traffic ban policy yet, we're unable to prevent them from doing that unless we just, the only way we could prevent them from doing that would be to just not connect the areas up. Now the only way they can get over to any of the industry over in this little area is through this main road right here. And same with getting to the warehousing. So it wasn't much done, but it'll help us out a lot. So now we can check up on our warehousing, which looks like it's actually ready to be checked up on. So if we look at this, it is 95% full on empty. So if we set this to fill now, over time, you'll see that their freight trucks in use will drop down to 0. This will stay steady around 100%, and then all of our lumber yards will try and keep this topped off at 100% and then export themselves, unless we pause the game, add another lumber yard, and set it to empty. And by setting it to empty, it won't import, but it will now take all of the excess that the lumber yards are producing and instead send it to this one. And what this one will do on the left is instead send all of its goods only to the zoned forestry that we place over here. It's just a way to help stop our industry from importing. And we're going to be doing something similar with this one. So you can see it's already at 67% full. It's really trying to export it all, but it's not going to be able to keep up with the demand, unfortunately. But we're going to keep letting that one run in the background. That one apparently is doing just fine. Commercial zone goods are doing just fine. It looks like zoned farming products are starting to fall behind as well. And I think pretty soon we'll be able to set these to fill as well. Actually, if I'm honest with you, I don't know if we have anything that takes zoned farming products, so we might have to just keep this one on empty just to continuously try and export. And I think a way to alleviate that would actually be to add another row of warehousing back here, which I'll go ahead and do now. Set this one to empty as well, and then zoned farming products. So that way it'll help alleviate the pressure that this one's feeling. And for zoned forestry, it looks like it's slowly actually backing up. So 3 industry buildings looks like it slowly backs up one of these warehouse yards. We're going to leave that alone for now. But we do have a couple new warehouses we need to add. Now I'm actually going to be doing these small warehouses again. So I'm going to actually keep 4 spaces between this for grain silos. First thing we're going to do is set this to empty. The next thing we're going to do is set it to, I believe, animal products. Same thing, we're going to add another warehouse over here. Leave some space for some grain silos. Set it to empty. And this one is going to be for flour, because in our industry area over here with the processors, we now have 2 flour mills and 2 cattle sheds, and you can see they're all complaining about not enough materials. Basically what they're waiting on is for this one to get full enough that we can set it to fill and always have at least 1 grain silo satisfying their demands. So we've definitely increased the number of workers and stuff in this one. We can see that we have a capacity for 160 workers here, and it only needs 150 for the next level. So we're actually probably going to be hitting level 2 on that this episode. And for the farms, it's in a very similar condition where it has a lot of demand for workers, and only workers until next level. So if we look at the bottom here, I do need to zone in some residential. So that's what I'm going to do next, is I'm going to zone this in, and in the snap of my fingers, you're just going to see it zoned in. So I was hoping that I would be able to just snap my fingers and this would be zoned out, but it has started to slow down to an absolute crawl, which leads me to believe that some of our city services might be lacking. So I already know which ones they are. I have gone ahead and taken a look. But fire is for sure one we have to think about. It is at 53%, which is insane in my opinion. So we're going to go ahead and place this one down over here by the tree plantations. The reason why I want to do that is because it has a tower on it, and it's kind of nice. It's as if it's looking out over the plantations and the farms and even the neighborhood in front of it, and you can hear all the people upgrading. This is exactly what they wanted apparently. Brought it down another 10%. But it's like they're looking out and over just to make sure there's no fires. So the next thing I wanted to look at was actually crime, because we're at 10% crime rate, 11%, and I'm actually not okay with that. So what I want to do is actually add a police station, and I was thinking about adding one right over here by this commercial area. So I'm going to extend this road out just a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and place a fire department, a police station over here. I'm going to go ahead and upgrade this road, and I want this road to be one with parking, because I don't want to discourage anybody from going to the police department, and if even having to walk there discourages them, I don't want that. So I'm going to leave parking in front of this place just to encourage more people to go there in case they need them. The next thing I want to look at is leisure. Now, when I was placing down the homes, watching how slow they were going, I thought to myself, it's going to be a long time before we turn this little area here into the city hall and city offices. So I thought it would be just kind of nice to maybe hold these people over a little bit with a dog park just right over here in the corner. You can see its coverage isn't perfect. There are a lot of people that still are lacking, but there's a remedy for that. And that's this park maintenance building. It only costs us $160 per week in upkeep. So I thought to myself, I'm going to go ahead and just build out our city services area here and go ahead and place it down over here. And now what that'll do is it'll increase the satisfaction range of all of our parks. So that way, when we look at, oh, well, we can't see it right now. 1 second, I'll just go ahead and place this building down. when we look at our leisure view now, slowly as the parks around them get upgraded by that park maintenance building, this will turn more into blue. And you can see people are already upgrading. That's crazy. Crazy to think about. But I don't think it's going to happen instantly. I'll have to show you a little bit after the next part. The next one is actually radio coverage. So this does two things. It increases citizen happiness, I believe, and it also increases the likelihood that citizens will evacuate when I ask them to, using this handy-dandy button for disasters up in the upper left. So to find the radio mast, oh my goodness, you can just hear all these homes upgrading. They are loving what we're adding to the city. So we have this radio mast tower, and I'm hoping I can squeeze it in right next to the fire department here in the city services area. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, it looks a little ridiculous with how tall it is, but we're just going to ignore that fact. Because when we go back into our radio view, you can see that almost our entire civilian population has radio coverage. So which means the next thing I want to think about is actually implementing evacuation shelters. Another fire. Oh my goodness, and they caught the trees on fire. The whole place is going to burn down again. I want to implement some of these evacuation shelters. One of the areas I was thinking about would be over here by this crop field, right next to this fire department. Now when you place one of these, it doesn't really do anything unless you have, I believe, an evacuation route. I could be wrong. This is the first time I'm actually using this DLC. I'm going to go ahead and draw an evacuation route. And that, I believe, should be good for the first area. I don't know. I actually have no idea if this is good or not. I really hope it is. I will find out when a disaster actually happens and I try to call citizens to safety. We will see how many of them actually evacuate. So for this next one, I was thinking of putting it over by this commercial area, since in the future I would like this commercial area to be kind of like our tourism area and our nightlife area. So to have an evacuation shelter over here to immediately snag up all these people, I think would be a wonderful idea. I think this route is definitely way too big. At least in my mind, this route is way too big. I don't know how it'll work out, but I hope that it'll be fine. So that is our radio and our disaster evacuation. If we look at our park maintenance, all the parks are now boosted, so it looks like that went into effect. So if we look at our leisure, there's a lot less orange homes, and I think that was reflected with all the dinging and upgrading we were hearing in the background. Well, at least what I was hearing. I don't know if the music's going to drown that out for you or not. And I think that's actually everything, so I'm going to go ahead and get back to zoning in residential. I'll be right back. Alright, we've got the whole neighborhood zoned in now. Everybody is happy. Our city services are taking care of people. Only half of our vegetation is burned down. And if we look at our demand meters, we still need a lot more residential, and we have almost no demand for industry or offices. So during one of those times where I was zoning in residential, our farm has actually leveled up again. We do just need to add more population for it to level up again. But a few things got added. One of them is this medium crop field. Another one was a lemonade factory, which we're not going to use. And another one is a milking parlor. So the medium crop field, that one's kind of interesting. If we replace, it takes up the land size of 2 small crop fields. So if we replace all of our small crop fields with these medium ones, it will cut our number of jobs roughly in half, but it will keep our production around the same. Let me see here. 4,800. So it'll actually lower our production just a little bit, but it will also lower the number of freight trucks on the road by about 20% it looks like. I mean, if each one has the maximum amount of trucks out, it would lower it by 20%. Its upkeep is over double and its cost is double. So that's something we have to think about, and I do think it actually is a good idea to swap from small crop fields to medium crop fields. But for now, since this one's about warehousing, I want to check up on our warehouses, see how they're all doing. So this one that's on empty, that's purely just trying to export everything it receives, is now backed up completely. This one seems to be doing just fine, getting its goods to our anything in town that uses them. So I'm going to go ahead and add another logging yard. We're going to pause the game, set it to empty, and then let that play out to hopefully these two will balance each other out. So let's go ahead and take a look at our grain silo. I think it's actually doing all right. I think it's currently just exporting everything, which could be a problem, which means we might actually need to add to our farm's production sooner than I'd like to. So maybe I'll actually do that real quick before the end, add a bunch, let it play out for a bit. Maybe I'll go take a break or something while this fills up. And then just to finish off the episode, oh, we're flooding. Okay. But great, first fires and now we have to start dealing with floods. Are you? Oh my goodness. So I think I'm going to go ahead and upgrade the farms next. Add more to it, upgrade them, and then hopefully this will fill up to the point where we can add another grain silo and set one of these to fill so it can satisfy all of our agricultural needs. And the other one can just export the goods or something. Commercial looks like it's still doing good. Zone farming looks like it's doing great now that we've added a second one. Zone forestry looks like it's in the same place. Flour looks like it's doing great. Animal products are doing great. And even this one looks like it's doing great. So it looks like the only one we have to worry about is our crops, because we're unable to satisfy our own city's crop needs even though we have them. As you can see, this one's complaining. That's because our current silo is sending everything away. So that's telling me we need to add a lot more production to our farms. So I'm going to go ahead and get into that, and I will be right back. Oh my goodness. All right. It looks like while I was doing that, our forestry industry has reached level 2. So we have a furniture factory, a biomass pellet plant, sawdust storage, forestry workers barracks, and a small tree sapling field. That is pretty cool. But I'm going to get back to what I was doing. Alright, so I've upgraded our farming industry to have a bunch of new medium crop fields and even one little new road with a new one off to the left over there. Some of these ones on the right have me worried. I don't think I'll be able to upgrade any one of these 3 on the corner to a large crop field, but at least the rest of them we'll be able to upgrade, except for obviously this one over here as well. I even went over here to the wheat fields and upgraded these ones to large as well. So while I was doing that, I think I want to go back and check up on our warehouses to see how they're doing. And as you can see, just upgrading the farming industry has helped this one out. So we can now set this one to fill and add in a new grain silo. So same thing, we're going to need to pause the game. I'm actually going to put this one in a different spot, kind of a funny spot. Let's see. So I want to save these 4x slots for the next silo up. I believe they're called large grain silos, and I think they're too wide. So I'm going to put this one over here, and I'm going to set this one to empty and check its routes and hit the game to play. Alright, we're not importing anything. Perfect. Now this one should have its trucks in use reduced down to 0 or minimal. And it will then act as the one who supplies everything in town that needs grain or crops. And this one will act as our city's storage. And it looks like it's not importing from outside of the city, which is perfect. So yeah, looking at everything I've done today, I'm pretty happy with this. I think this is looking pretty good. I'm liking the direction. There are some things that concern me, but I don't think they're of too much of a concern to do anything about. There is a lot I don't understand still about warehousing. I hope to understand it. And this episode has also made me aware of my lack of knowledge on evacuation routes and getting citizens to safety. I'm not quite sure of a whole lot about that. I think I'm just going to pretend I don't know anything, or at least I know enough, and that way when a disaster does happen, I'll be able to just hit my panic button and have all the citizens get to safety, and hopefully we save everybody and don't take too big of a hit to our budget. But yeah, we got a lot done. We added to our farming industry, we added to our tree industry, which wasn't even our primary focus. Our focus was the warehousing, and I think we've actually got that in a good spot. I am a little bit disappointed. I think I wanted to add a bakery this time around, but we just do not have the demand for it, I don't believe. Give me 1 second, I'll check it real quick. Oh, well, we do, so why not? Alright, well, now we have it. We added in our bakery. Oh, it looks like we need another warehouse though. So I'm actually just going to add a little bit of a lip over here just to put our next warehouse. I'm going to add the other warehouse here, set it to empty. Actually, we can actually keep it on, I'll keep it on empty. And we're going to set this to unique factory products because these cannot be imported. It has to be produced locally, so we don't have to worry about a mass influx of trucks. But that will store all of the goods that our bakery produces. And you can see how much of a price or how much more money we get just by having the bakery. It turns $1,200 into $3,800. So yeah, actually, the only thing I was disappointed about not doing was adding the bakery, and we just got it done. And we even added a warehouse for it. So I think this is looking pretty good. I'm happy with this. Sorry if this episode went over 40 minutes. I kind of knew that would happen because warehousing and infrastructure just takes so much time. But we got out of it a new interchange, all these new roads. We've upgraded our industry. We've added more to our weekly budget, which, of course, now that we're looking at it, it's dipped down to the hundreds. But nope, okay, there you go. You can see it's up almost to 7,000. So I'm pretty happy with everything that's happened now that I put down the bakery. No longer any regrets. I think there's a couple things that I am worried about, but I don't think they're of too big of a concern to actually note or care about. So I'll probably just not even write them down on my notes and forget about them by the next episode. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Sorry for the beginning mega time lapse. That's not something I enjoyed putting together. I had to cut a lot of footage out. It was something like 20 minutes of raw footage down into 10 minutes of time lapse that I had to cut into like 3 or 4 minutes of a time lapse. I did not enjoy that, so that's something I'm not going to do going forward. So yeah, anyways, I hope you enjoy the cinematics at the end of this, and I hope to see you next time.
Camina, caminadora, sigue a donde va. No llores, más llorona, llorona, deja la tristeza atrás.